respect, and we'd also be taught at a very young age that we needed to give back. And those two lessons.
Yeah, check it out, man. This is your boy Akon, and right now you're tuned in to the Millionaire Student Show with my man, Sashin Govender.
Yo, it's Rich the Kid on the Millionaire Student Show.
Hi, I'm Ariani Celeste, and you're tuning in to the Millionaire Student Show.
What's up, y'all? Tune into the Millionaire Student Show with Andy Milanakis.
Yo, this your boy, Soulja Boy, and you tune into the Millionaire Student Show with Sasha. Keep it locked right here.
We're on the Millionaire Student Show, and today's guest we have Shawn Ray. And before I go into a brief outline about Shawn, the Millionaire Student Show, the purpose, the drive, and the aim for it is edutainment, bringing education and entertainment, combining it, finding that bridge and that gap, giving you access to wisdom, talent, and most importantly, instead of you going out there and viewing multiple different channels, you'd find everything that you need to take you from where you are to where you deserve to be. The ultimate aim is to cover 4 pillars: health, wealth, spirituality, and relationships. And today we have Shawn Ray, former professional bodybuilder and author, signing his first professional bodybuilding sponsor contract in 1988. That's 31 years ago.
Long time.
I wasn't even born back then. Ray has been featured in 6 video documentaries, multiple fitness and bodybuilding magazines worldwide, author of a book called How to Become a Bodybuilder named The Shawn Ray Way. He competed in 12 successful Miss Olympia contests between 1990 and 2001 and finished top 5 in all of them. And Ray won the IFBB Arnold Classic in 1991. Thank you so much for being on the Millionaire Student Show. I appreciate it. And, how does it feel to compete at the pinnacle of bodybuilding?
It seems like a lifetime ago, because you got to remember, I've been retired 18 years now. So I'm on that senior citizen tour where people are coming up with old magazines for me to autograph when I had hair. But I get a kick out of looking back at what I've accomplished, because a lot of it's being compared to what's on stage today. And it sounds like if you plug me into today's market, I'd actually be Mr. Olympia. So our sport kind of goes up and down. I came up in an era of mass monsters from 90 all the way till my retirement. And these guys were all 5'10", 260 pounds plus. One of the guys that won the Olympia was 287 pounds in shape at 5'10". So I came a little bit behind the shorter guys. 1981, you had Franco Columbu, who was 5'2". 1982, Chris Dickerson was about 5'6". And then 83, Samir Banu was 5'7". He was my height. And then after that, it was 5'10" and above for the entire rest of my career. And I got stuck behind the mass monster. So I couldn't actually win the ultimate title, which is the Mr. Olympia. Staying in the top 5, I beat a lot of big guys. And I feel really accomplished when I look back at how big and overwhelming some of them were. But it was my completeness, the attention to detail, the balance, which I really stress to bodybuilders coming up today now as a promoter, that you don't have to be the biggest on stage to win. And I go back to looking at the smaller guys that were doing very good when I was coming up and modeling myself behind, and looking back at my body of work, I feel very accomplished. I do, because those guys were so much bigger than I was.
Yeah, and I mean, in today's world, people just strive to be number 1, which is good, but I mean, it's all about consistency, and you've done it consecutively for years. I mean, most people would make it to the top, the pinnacle, and then feel like, hey, I've arrived. Hey, I don't need to go out and compete the next year. And that's an exact comparison to business, to athletes, sport. But I mean, what was your inspiration?
Well, I mean, let me tell you, losing is the best medicine for wanting to get back out there and correct the mistakes. I always felt when I got on stage that I had a chance to win. And so when you get 3rd, and then you drop to 4th, and you move up to 2nd, you drop to 5th, I mean, you're so close to that lifelong dream. I mean, I dreamt about being Mr. Olympia since 17 years old. And throughout my 20s and into my 30s, I had a very real possibility that it could happen. I never gave in to the belief that because they're bigger, they're better. Yeah. When I got 2nd place, I went right back to the drawing board. And there's going to be another contest the following year. Let me get ready for it. I'll put my physique up against theirs and let the chips fall where they may. And for over a decade, I was moved back and forth between 2nd and 5th place. But every year I was in the fight. And so there's nothing worse than realizing that you have this one moment in time to realize a dream from a child. When I realized that dream wasn't going to happen as I got closer to retirement, I started turning my energies in other directions. And that's when I started to realize I'm having more fun promoting. I'm having more fun creating and marketing and influencing other people to have the opportunity to experience what I did. I mean, you could only be at the top for so long. I didn't enjoy the idea that I would be going down out of the top 5. So when I realized it wasn't going to be for me, because Ronnie Coleman won another 4 years after I retired, the guy I was telling you, 5'10", 280. I turned my interests to things that I could actually use my creativity. And all my wisdom and all my dedication for bodybuilding, I applied that to becoming a contest promoter, to becoming a master of ceremonies, and working with other sponsoring companies. I'm a very big networker in our industry that brings athletes to companies and companies to competitions and things like that. So that's why I'm still relevant 18 years in retirement, and I'm working with Arnold Schwarzenegger as his master of ceremonies, where he has a show of over 600 amateur athletes. I host the Mr. Olympia Championships for the World Wide Web, where I'm a commentator breaking down what the fans around the world are seeing. So I'm very diverse. I'm actually moving into a whole nother market now in the food industry. I'm working with this company, Panini Kebab Grill. They do the Mediterranean-style food, and I'm helping them market their brand, 17 stores here in Southern California, very health-conscious, non-organic, non-GMO food for the bodybuilders that have to train to diet and also to get big. So that's a whole nother thing. I stay very diversified.
I mean, being relevant is key because, I mean, so many people make it, but they don't sustain it. And there's athletes today, there's artists today, you mention their name, and, you know, because they're not involved, they're not in today's world, they start to become extinct in due time. And that's just key, that's desire.
Yeah.
So where you come from, where I come from, there's desire. And, you know, we've just found the gap between desire and, you know, going out there and building the foundation, the infrastructure. Most people from first world countries, they have infrastructure.
Right.
But they don't have desire. And you can't buy desire today.
Yeah, I remember hearing a phrase that if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I was a fan first of bodybuilding. Then I was a serious contender for the title of bodybuilder. And now I'm a creator. I'm working on the other side, a producer, that I can actually live vicariously through athletes that shared the same dreams and goals that I did when I was competing. I just don't have to go through the wear and tear of dieting and tearing down my body, but I create the platform. I got 2 shows over in Hawaii that I put on, just had a competition in March over in India. We're working on different parts of the world, over in China where I just came back from, and over in Iraq, which is where I'm headed to. So our industry is global. What you're seeing here, when I take a picture and it comes out in America, it comes out in Africa, comes out in China, comes out in Russia, for example. So it's a global market, and if you're not hungry to get out and produce and create, you can become very stagnant, and then you become very forgettable. I'm not trying to keep my name out there. It's just that I know that there's a lot of knowledge that I gained throughout the years that I'm able to share with other people that benefit. We were speaking earlier of 7-time Mr. Olympia Phil Heath, and his first pro win was a show that I put on. You know, I'm attached to his career. He's one of the greatest to ever do it, and I saw him when he was nothing. And so I get a kick out of watching him continue to grow as an individual and watch the next generation come out behind him as I interview them along their path to greatness.
Great. So, I mean, you're a mentor to many.
Sure.
I mean, you had mentors in your career. How important is it to stay aligned, stay coachable to a mentor? Because I see it in business today, people start to achieve a little bit of success, and they forget their part on who helped them get to where they are.
Right.
And they forget that coachability.
So as a 17-year-old in a gym for the first time outside of my high school, I ran into a guy by the name of John Brown, 2-time Mr. Universe, 3-time Mr. World. He kind of took me under his wing, he kind of beat me up and took me through the ringer, and I just kept coming back. And he saw potential in me that I didn't know existed, because I didn't know what bodybuilding was, but he saw that I had that genetic base, and then he also saw that I had the determination to keep coming back, to get my ass spanked and try to do it and do it and do it until I got victorious. My first show I went in, I got 2nd place. And he also saw that I had the determination to keep coming back, to get my ass spanked and try to do it and do it and do it until I got victorious. My first show I went in, I got second place, and I got best poser, and that's what John was known for. So I credit him with helping me with that style of posing. And along the way, I wound up winning the Teenage California, the Teenage America, the Junior World Championships, and ultimately 3 years out of high school, I turned pro. That was because he saw in me what I never saw. And then once I got to a point where I realized I can actually do this, and I'm suddenly on the level of a John Brown, two-time Mr. Universe, I learned everything I could from him. And we're still friends to this day. And now he's got 3 boys that are football players. One's in the NFL, the other one's at Stanford, and the other one's at USC. So I picked the right mentor.
Yeah.
And he was an artist. And I took his style and applied it to my style. And I've been known as one of the best posers in bodybuilding. When I started, I have 2 left feet. So that influence stays with me. I can't tell the Shawn Ray story without telling the John Brown story.
Yeah. I mean, mentors just shorten that route to success. It makes
Sure.
it much easier. But you got to find someone that has what you want. You did that.
Well, I was found. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't think I was ever
Yeah.
going to be a bodybuilder.
But then you got to do what they do.
Yes.
You got to say what they say, walk like they walk, gym like they gym,
Yeah.
exactly like them, articulate and emulate their path, and you decide you become a better version of them.
I was a sponge because, John was 6'2", 250 pounds, something that I could never be in my life. But I learned he was a guy that was going over to Europe and come home, and he was speaking German. He made a big name for himself over in Germany, so he speaks German. He was drawing pictures. He was an artist. He went to my university, which is Cal State Fullerton, and he never left the area. So throughout my growing up, he was there through my career. And when I surpassed him athletically, I was still learning from him because, again, he was telling me the way to monetize my career. I had a first-hand glimpse into what it would look like. He had 100 trophies in his room. That was inspiration for me every time I came over to get a piece of that.
Yeah.
He had the respect of all the NFL players. The Los Angeles Rams were out where we were, and he was hanging around with the football players, and I wanted to be a football player. And I was just happy to be in his presence. So as my success rose and his gratitude for me kind of like acknowledging where I come from, we're very good friends to this day.
And the sad reality nowadays, people get attracted by their mentor's exterior rather than the interior. So like, what car do they drive? What home do they live in? What type of lifestyle, rather than, hey, have they really accomplished anything? Going into bodybuilding, what do you feel the future is?
So, I mean, I've seen it all. I was born in 1965, and that's when they had the very first Mr. Olympia. Larry Scott won that championships. And here we are 55 years later, going into the 55th anniversary of the Joe Weider Olympia. You've had a white guy from Utah win the championships, a black guy from Cuba, Italian, Austrian, an Englishman. We've had all different types of ethnicities win this coveted title, but there's only been 14 of them in 55 years. So I've seen the evolution of bodybuilding. I made a documentary about the evolution of bodybuilding on the brothers Joe and Ben. They founded the industry. I worked for them for 17 years. And we are in a really different space at the moment. We have a vacancy of the Mr. Olympia, which hasn't happened since 1998. I was in that show when Dorian Yates from England got injured, and suddenly that 1998 Mr. Olympia was wide open to anybody. Most people presumed it would be the Hall of Famers, the top 5, and we all got beat by a guy that was lurking in 9th place, Mr. Ronnie Coleman. And Ronnie went on to win 8 consecutive titles, tying Lee Haney. Now we have a competition where the reigning Mr. Olympia is not competing. And who knows who could win. We got a guy from the Netherlands in the name of former William Bonek. We got a guy from Carousel by the name of Rolly Winkler. A guy from Tennessee who's very unexpectedly came up very strong and won the Arnold Classic in the form of Brandon Curry. There's about 3 or 4 different guys from different places that can win it. None of them have the pedigree of the era that I was in. I don't believe any of them are headed for the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame. So it's going to be a very interesting show this September 13th or 14th in Las Vegas, because it's going to change the landscape of bodybuilding, and we're going to have to get used to someone that's not of the Mr. Olympia ilk. Like they don't have the pedigree. The only one that does is Dexter Jackson. Dexter Jackson won this championship in 2008. It's been 11 long years. He'll be 50 years old this year. And he stands a very real possibility of actually repeating as a Mr. Olympia winner. Should that not happen, we're going to have to get used to somebody that's totally new, someone that's probably foreign, and we'll see the exciting times ahead. This is the first time since 1998.
Yeah. I mean, discipline is what entrepreneurs lack. And not just entrepreneurs, but, many other fields out there. What I love about athletes is that's something that's at their core.
Sure.
To make it to the pinnacle, you need to be aligned. You need to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you just need to, there's a routine. With entrepreneurs, you might see your best month ever, and next month wake up at 9 a.m. rather than 6 a.m.
Sure.
What kept you aligned?
Well, you got to remember, we see our competitors in magazines. You see them on the cover of a magazine. I look at myself, and it doesn't mean a whole lot when you look at somebody that's more impressive.
Yeah.
So I had the advantage of seeing the enemy up close and personal and go, I could never look like that. His arms are so big, his legs are so, his back is so wide. So you can really psych yourself out when you're competing against people, because this is an independent contracting business. We are products. We sell ourselves independently of each other. It's not a group sport. It's not a team sport. I didn't have a coach. I had a mentor. I didn't have a trainer. I didn't have a nutritionist. And the only thing I went through was a bunch of different workout partners, because they could only last so long. My goal as a bodybuilder was to wear out my workout partners. Like, I need you to quit. I need to just take you down into the deep end and drown you, and then find another one. And sometimes I'd get challenged by people. And that would make me a better bodybuilder, because if you push back, I'm pushing back harder. There's no way you're supposed to survive a Shawn Ray workout. I'm in the Olympia, and you're not even a professional. So I would elevate my game working with athletes that wanted to be in my position. But as an entrepreneur, I have to realize my value, my market value. How much can I charge for a guest posing appearance? How much can I sell an 8x10 for? How much would I get if I made a personalized t-shirt or a personalized poster? What's my value if I'm guest posing in Germany as opposed to guest posing in Mexico? So all of these things you have to learn along the way, because there's no one there to tell you, hey, Shawn, you're worth $5,000 for your guest posing appearance. Oh, and a business class plane ticket at another $4,000. And by the way, we got you a 5-star hotel. It's going to be $15,000 to have me appear for you at a small show, maybe 100 athletes, maybe 600 people in the audience. It's going to be $15,000 to have me appear for you at a small show, maybe 100 athletes, maybe 600 people in the audience. So I've got to measure all of these stuff in real time and get back to you, the promoter, and say, okay, here's what I'm willing to do to get on a plane and fly to Russia. Or I got to calculate my sweat equity to my travel time to my work time. And every bodybuilder goes through that. And the successful ones find that happy medium where it's beneficial to you, the promoter, it's beneficial to me and my time, and also my commitment to get in shape to come and perform for you. All of those things the bodybuilder has to calculate in order to make it a business that you can replicate. Not only in Russia, but in England. If I'm coming to visit you in Russia, it's too far to go for one day. So maybe I need to find some other gym owners or some other people out there, some stores, so I can go from you to you to you. And now I'm there for 4 days.
Yeah.
I lower my price so everybody kind of can afford me, but I actually come home with more. So there's this negotiation thing that goes on. You're not taught that. You don't go to school for that. You have to figure that out as a brand, as a product. Some guys tried it with their managers, and the managers want all the lion's share of the money, and then there's nothing left.
Yeah.
I managed myself, I marketed myself, and I managed to stay alive and exist in a business that really is cutthroat, because our value is based on how we look. And suddenly I've taken my look, put it over here in the closet, put on my clothes, and started to use my brain and found a way to continue being relevant, being valuable, and working in a space that is kind of irreplaceable for me.
And that's logical, because most athletes, they feel and think emotional.
Yes.
So they start generating some money, and as an athlete, this is a very notorious world for living the high life.
Sure.
Maintaining that expectation to the world, name brand clothes, cars, traveling first class. When the income stops flowing, how do you maintain that lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, you got to realize we're only here for a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You're not here, so sooner or later the picture has to become bigger than yourself. You got to try to generate passive revenue that you're not actually working for, but it continues to flow. Some people play the real estate game. Some people play the stock market game. I told you, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're never going to work.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a creator. I try to find things that don't exist and I create them. One of the things I did in bodybuilding is create a fitness fundraiser for Children's Hospital of Orange County. Created a golf tournament, got all my top friends in the fitness industry, Mr. America, Mr. Universe, Miss Olympia. Had all of the top guys who are at the top of their game donate $1,000. So with 18 holes, that's $18,000. Then I got the round of golf, which was $200. So $100 for the round of golf and another $100 contribution from the athlete. So that's $7,200 more on top of the $18,000. And then we had the raffle tickets and etc. Well, in 2 years, the first year we created $25,000 fundraiser. The next year it was $30,000 fundraiser. Didn't exist and it's never been done. But what I was able to do was bring in ordinary people to play with these iconic athletes, and they got a little bit closer to what we did, and we got closer to what they did. Real estate people, car owners, entrepreneurs, business people. Yeah, it was the networking. But at the same time, it was all in the name of charity. So the kids got their check. The guy that owned the real estate company that was living vicariously through this Mr. Olympia, Mr. America, got to go tell his friends that he was playing golf with. And none of the bodybuilders and fitness people ever play golf. Yeah. We spent all our time in the gym looking, trying to look good. So to get them in an element that was foreign to them was actually fun because nobody was good. And two, it was a lot of camaraderie. Most of the bodybuilders and athletes are competing against each other, so you can't formulate a friendship. But in this setting, it did. So I try to create things like that. Then muscle camps, bring the athletes together to teach. It's such an individualized, spread out, diverse industry that very rarely are we together unless it's for competition. Competition's over, everyone goes back to the four corners of the world. But when you create things that bring them together, now you can actually start to teach, exchange ideas, and find ways to monetize our sweat equity. And for me, I continue to do that. Again, I'm over here in the food industry. I'm working with an equipment company out of China. I'm promoting my shows in different countries.
You just don't know which is the one that's going to flip.
Yeah, and I don't really, the nickels and dimes, they add up to dollars and cents. I've been there. I had the Ferrari, had the Lamborghini, had the 5-bedroom house by myself while I was single with a condo at the beach. I mean, as an athlete, those rewards for your efforts, they come. And sometimes we don't really know what to do, so we try to do everything. Yeah. As you mature and you get a little older, you realize you only need 4 wheels and a chassis. And you're thankful if you have a roof over your head and that you're healthy. I walked away healthy. The guy, Ronnie Coleman, I talked about, he's in a wheelchair. He's got 8 Mr. Olympia trophies. Tore his body down. He's driving around in a Rolls Royce and an Escalade, but you know what? I'd rather be walking and running than have all that stuff. But some of the athletes have to go through that to really see the bigger picture isn't what you have. It's your health. That's why we got involved in this business in the first place. But everyone has to go down that road. Multi-millionaire athletes wind up broke. And then they're not in the game. Sometimes you have to get back to what you love in order to find out who you are. I never left, so I'm good. I don't need $1 million to float my expenses and my lifestyle. I just need to continue staying active and in a position of, I don't want to say authority, but in a position where I'm available. Because the guys coming up, they're the ones that need to be taught what I already know. I can't take it with me.
Yeah, that actually kept you relevant as well, because when your expenses are very low and you can maintain that lifestyle, you're not doing everything under stress.
Right.
So did your passion ever surpass you going out there and doing this for the money at any given point in your career?
Yeah, you realize really quickly that this is your job. So if I got in a fight at a bar because I was hanging out and some guy stepped on my toe or thought I was looking at his girl, I really have to think what the consequence can be. While I might think and know I could knock this guy out and beat him up, I could also break my hand, I could also get a black eye, I could also tear a muscle. And then I realized that everything thereafter is affected. Because if I have a guest appearance the following weekend, you can't go on stage with a black eye. I can't continue to train weights in a cast because I knocked some guy out. So there's a lot of things that you become aware of what you can't do. But the one thing that I do enjoy doing more than anything else is when I'm there in a position with the microphone as a master of ceremonies, or I'm backstage and I'm doing the interviews for the athletes, I pay attention to what they're saying because I was that kid one time coming up. When I look around the industry, there's not a lot of guys like me that did go through the Olympia, that did come up in the game with underneath Joe Weider. There's no other guys doing it. So I'm like the only one doing it, which makes me a valuable resource to the industry. One, I was there. I'm a walking historian. And two, these guys are all that are coming up in the industry, they're Googling me, they're YouTubing me, and they're seeing who I was and where I was at. So it gives me a position of authority to kind of give them advice on what to do and what not to do.
Before we wrap this up, by the way, with Shawn Ray, what's your secret weapon for keeping a positive mindset and just going through the adversity, the prosperity, the ups and the downs in life? What mentally, because this is a mental race.
Absolutely.
As much as it's a physical and you're looking good and you got to look good and maintain that, this is a mental race. What What is that secret weapon for you?
Well,
What is that currency for you?
I mean, bodybuilding is body dysmorphia. I mean, it's bigorexia, it's anorexia. People come in here because they're getting picked on, they're getting bullied. You know, you can have the prettiest girl in the world with all the makeup, the lights, camera, and action, and then when she's offset, she thinks she's ugly, or she thinks she's fat, or she's, you know, people come into this with a lot of hang-ups. Some guys, they get into this business, and the parents and the family don't understand. Why are you eating chicken with no skin? Why are you throwing away the egg yolk? And why are you making fish in the morning? All these things, you're not going to be big enough. You don't want to do that. We get successful a lot of times because of the things people say about us. And then we take that first step to change the perception of what other people think of us. That's what this body business is. Somebody said, you know, you got small arms, and next thing you know, you're training your arms. No calves, and you're training your calves. My way to stay positive is just to continue, you heard the word haters, just to continue shutting up the haters, because with success comes haters. You're going to have people that are going to cheer for you, but you're going to run into people that don't want you to have that success. And there's nothing better than to continue being a success. And when the sport for me ran out, I realized, okay, I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia, but I love bodybuilding, I love traveling, I love the art of the deal. And I love to produce. Then I just started finding other ways to produce. I got my ebook that's out on ShawnRay.fitness. It's the extension of the Shawn Ray way, the first book I wrote. Now, since we're in the digital age, I made an ebook. Those are very popular these days. And I'm educating a whole new generation of bodybuilders that missed the Shawn Ray career. You said you weren't even born back when I was doing my thing. There's a whole lot that the guys coming in now, you learn from the past. And I'm one of those guys that people are learning from today. So my thing is just to regurgitate everything that I've learned and spill it out on all the guys coming up, so that hopefully they'll be sitting in my chair one day telling the story of Shawn Ray.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much for being here and featuring on the Millionaire Student Show. Once again, Shawn Ray competed in 12 Mr. Olympias, and that's between 1990 and 2001. And in fact, in the 12 top 5, Shawn, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Great. So once again, comment below on the top 3 things that you've taken away from this episode, and what you can absorb and eventually apply. We're on the Millionaire Student Show, and today's guest, we have Dr. Lawrence Rifkin. But before I introduce Dr. Lawrence, the ultimate aim, the goal, and the vision for the Millionaire Student Show is to bring edutainment, education and entertainment to you. This is exactly what I wanted about 7.5 years ago when I got involved in the entrepreneurial world. Sadly, I had to go through multiple videos.